Hello and welcome to Filmi, ladies. The ghost of Christmas present is here in the studio, by which I mean this Zoom call with Pitu and me, Beth, today because there are weird sounds and floating green lights, and there was actually a duplicate Pitu in this Zoom. We don't know what's going on, but we're actually just here to talk about two pretty straightforward new releases. I don't know why the Ramsey brothers have been summoned, but here they are, and we thank them for their presence. We want to talk today about Vicky Vidya Kavo Vala Video and Jigra. I did not see the latter, but Pitu has, and we've both seen Vicky Vidya. So let's start with that. I didn't like this movie. What did you think?
It was terrible, and I was very, very glad that it like left my movie theater super fast because I was originally going to watch this movie in my local movie theater, and I'd seen its name on the marquee, and I was like, "Oh, good! Tomorrow after work, I'll walk by and I'll buy my tickets." And the next day, so this was like a Friday, and then the next day I went to the box office and I was like, "Hello, I don't see this movie on your marquee anymore, but I want to buy tickets to this movie." And this very like teenage looking person goes, "Which movie is that?" And I was like, "It's an Indian movie. It's called Vicky Vidya." And he's like, "Oh yeah, we don't have that anymore." And I was like, "But you literally got it 2 days ago." He's like, "Oh yeah, but we didn't sell any tickets, so we took it off." And I was like, "Cool." And so I waited until it came on Netflix, and thank God, because if I had to see this movie in the theater, I would have screamed in frustration. So it was for the best.
So your local audience chose wisely, it sounds like, and like boot that puppy on out of there.
They were
What
like a
were the,
voyeur.
what were the top three things that you did not care for about this film?
It was so long and convoluted and silly, and there were all these like unnecessary subplots in it. So it's just the writing was very loosey goosey and not tight enough. So I really disliked that. Um, I also I'm starting to kind of not like Tripti Dimri anymore, even though she completely bowled me over in Bulbul. I thought she was so phenomenal in Bulbul, and I really liked her in Laila Majnu. But I didn't particularly care for her in Kala, and I thought she was awful in this. And thankfully, I've not seen Bad News because I don't want to see bad news. But I didn't think she was good in this either. Not that Rajkumar Rao was great, but he wasn't terrible. So eh, it just wasn't even funny. And during one of his scenes, I started counting the amount of times he said "is that," and after he said it the fifth time, I was like, "Okay, I must stop counting now." Even the music was bad. There was nothing about this movie that I liked. It was terrible. What about you?
Yeah, I think I would also have to say number one is the writing because it was too long with the weird moralizing at the end, which is a that was a worthwhile villain to call out and everything, but it
Hmm.
out of nowhere. Um, I was Rajkumar Rao wearing a wig, I assume.
I don't know, but I don't know.
I found his hair very distracting.
Okay.
And I don't mean that in a sh like shallow, he didn't look as good to me way, although that was true, but like 90s, like small town.
Because it's set in 97, so maybe.
Yeah, I just kept trying to figure out if it was a wig and it felt very wiggy to me.
Hmm.
And then my third thing is, why was it 1997? There was no reason for it to be 1997
Yeah. Well,
because
because
they could have lost a thumb drive or a phone. I like
mm,
it have been uploaded somewhere. Like if you want to have people running around looking for their sex tape, I
yeah.
just feel there are other ways you could have done it because I didn't think they did anything very interesting with the 90s setting
Mhm.
unless that was somehow absolutely crucial to the moralizing at the end, which, as previously stated, I wasn't all that excited about anyway. So that to me doesn't quite seem a worthwhile. I just this just didn't cohere into anything that was interesting or funny or mattered or anything for me.
Yeah, even the funny scenes weren't that funny. I thought that if and like I mean this was very much marketed as a comedy, and it just wasn't that funny. Like I don't think there was a single scene where I kind of like laughed out loud. It was just kind of like okay, I guess. I also don't think that Tripti is particularly good at comedy. I think Rajkumar tried valiantly, but I don't think his dialogues were good enough. I think the only person that kind of was a little bit funny, but also more cringe than anything was Archana Puran Singh. But I have a soft spot for her. So every time I see her, it makes me happy. And the pan chewing and the horrible monkey cap and the sweater, that made me giggle. But even with her, it was very much skirting that very caricaturish line where it wasn't that good. I mean, even Archana Puran Singh couldn't save that character. I will say I enjoyed Malika Sherawat a lot,
Me too.
and I enjoyed
I
Vijay
know.
Raz a lot.
Yeah.
They were the highlights of the film. Okay, let's talk about Malika Sherawat because I squealed when I saw her.
I have no feelings about her one way or the other. Like it's not like I've been wondering where she has been, although I did go
Right.
and look and she has recently done what appears to be a snake film, and that sounds right to me.
Oh,
And I
was it his? But that's kind of old, right?
oh, that's ages ago.
Yeah. So she's done another snake film
Well, she's
recently?
done a recent film that has a big snake on the cover.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so that was fun. And I mean, I think we've discussed before on this podcast, Vijay Raz is amazing. I'm always happy to see him. I'm glad. I'm always glad that he's working. I think he raises the level of everything he is
Yes.
in. His entry, like standing out of the edge of the police jeep, I thought was really funny. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, all for it.
He speaking of distracting haircuts, his haircut was horrific.
It was very.
Horrific. But I enjoyed it. And I think I've told you this before, and I don't know if this conversation was off camera or if this was in a Zoom recording or whatever, because like we talk so much I've lost track. But there was that one time when I said to you that in Mumbai we have this thing where we say, oh, he's definitely that guy who looks at himself and says, "Main to stud aadmi." Um, Vijay Raz was so that person. He is convinced that he is God's gift to mankind. And it could have been so smarmy and sleazy and irritating. And oddly, it wasn't. But I think it's because of his inherent charm. Of course, he was very like weird with Malika Shravat's character and definitely like stalkery and stuff with her. But I enjoyed his acting in it. And I don't think I've ever seen Vijay Raz in this kind of a role. So I like that. And Malika Sherawat, I don't have very strong feelings about her either, although I very much enjoyed her during her heyday, like in Murder and things like that. I like Murder. But Lady has screen presence. Every time she came on screen, I couldn't look away from her. I thought she looked so stunning. Those leheria saris with the very sassy blouses that she wore, and just like her overall demeanor. I just thought she was very, very funny. And I think she definitely has that like star power and charisma. And this kind of vaguely coquettish, I'm too good for everyone, I'm too good for this town, and yet I want attention from everybody thing that she had going on. I thought that was hysterical too. So
Yeah.
yeah. And did you like the song that they did together, the sort of like quasi romantic number that they
Yeah.
had?
Yeah.
It was funny. I was like, I did not anticipate seeing Vijay Raz in a romantic number like that, but I quite enjoyed it. I thought he did well. So that was funny. The other songs, the ones that Rajkumar Rao and Tripti had were not it. So
I had a moment, and I think it was during the very first song, but maybe it was in the second song that they had. But then in the credits, I felt differently. But I had this moment of, is Raj Kumar Rao not good at lip syncing?
oh.
So it's not striking you as such. So probably it was just something
Mm-mm.
with the way Netflix was streaming for me or something. And I'm not saying he was off,
Okay.
but it just seemed like he was more obviously lip syncing than
Hmm.
people almost ever. I think I've said this before, like the level of lip sync ability in the Indian film industry is astronomical.
Yeah.
And there were moments where I just didn't feel like he was cutting it. But then in the two songs that played under the credits,
Mm.
it fell back to like what I would have expected.
Okay.
Listeners, if any of you thought that as well, please tell me. But also, I'm perfectly willing to admit I was maybe just imagining things or Netflix was being weird for me or something. So, but that it was something that happened that kind of took me out of
Mm.
the film. Not that that was a hard task because I was on my phone a lot and I was doing a craft project and I just was not engaged with this at all. I did really love Tripti's dialogue. about saying to him, "Well, you're a potato and potatoes go with everything. So are
Oh
you
yeah.
opera and whatever, whatever." I thought that was really funny. And it made me think, I don't believe I've heard that comparison in a dialogue before. And I was like, oh,
Right.
a good joke. I like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to remember about this movie, I think.
Yeah. The cauliflower and the potato analogy.
Mhm.
Yeah. I know it didn't seem to be going anywhere. And it was interesting because I I wouldn't say I necessarily had very high hopes from this film, but I was definitely looking forward to watching something that was lighthearted. I enjoy comedies. I'm a little bored of the small town comedies, which Rajkumar Rao keeps doing a lot, or Ashman Khurana, but it's fine. I can handle that. I like Rajkumar Rao a lot. I think 50 Dimri. My opinion of her changes with every film I see. She's so inconsistent, and I still think her career best performance is Bulbul. She was amazing in that, but it's just I don't know if she's finding it hard to find her footing in commercial films. Because I remember you watched Bad News and you weren't particularly impressed by her in it, were you?
No, I don't think I was, but the whole film was kind of meh for me.
Yeah,
So I would like to see her in a mainstream thing with a really solid script, because I
yeah.
didn't really have a problem with her in this, but it wasn't my issues with this were not because of her, I don't think, or or,
Okay.
or really any of the actors. I thought all the actors were fine, although the the two that you named, I think, were the best. Um, but I would like to see her in a more solid script. So I know that you're probably not going to run out and see Bulbulaya 3. And by run out, I mean, you know,
I'll see it once it comes on streaming, but that's because I love Vidya and Madhuri, so I'll watch it for them.
I thought she was fun in that. So
Okay.
my verdict is out, but um I'm happy to see her trying different things. So
Hmm.
mm,
I think if you watch Laila Majnu, you'll like her in that because I think she was excellent in Bulbul and then she was really good in Laila Majnu as well. Although Laila Majnu really is Avinash Tiwari's show, like he takes over, but she's good in that.
right.
So this one I was just kind of like and then I don't understand why there were so many songs, and then there was the Lair Mendy's Nana Nare remix, which I was like the old one is good enough. Why do we have this remix? And then there was that absolutely horrifying song, the Mere Mehboob song at the end, where she's in that tacky blue outfit, and then the choreography was hideous, and it was a mess. This whole like two songs in the credit trend needs to go because they did that in 3-2 as well, and I was like, oh my god, can you stop? Or if you're gonna put two songs, make sure they're good, and these weren't even good. So yeah, not impressed. I did get a little bit of a chuckle out of the two Sunil Shetties.
Yeah.
I like that, but again, it wasn't enough to sort of carry the story. And I feel like the plot about this like seemingly nice dude who does these kind of like mass community marriages, um who actually is this horrible creep. I feel like that was at least an interesting
Yeah,
plot, like that was, but it almost came too late in the film.
it
By
did.
the time it came, I had already lost interest and I kind of didn't care anymore if they found the CD or not. And I watched this movie with my friend. She'd come over to watch it on Netflix with me, and at one point I said to her, watch, I bet this CD ends up being, like it's just in their house or something. And that's exactly what happened. And I was like, man, y'all didn't even try. um
I have a question about that.
okay.
So this question is very much due to my ignorance. Eh, Does this family, do you think, have someone who cleans their house?
Oh, for sure.
So wouldn't it have
How
been
did not? Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's like a basic question, right? Like, don't they have like, didn't that person's Chanda, isn't she their housekeeper? So wouldn't she have, or
probably?
maybe she never sweeps under the bed or something? Because you never actually see Chanda
I'm
doing any
not sure
work.
how many days it was supposed to have been, but like a week maybe? I don't know.
I couldn't tell that either. Yeah. It just needed far better. The script needed to be better. The direction needed to be better. It just needed to be a lot tighter and funnier. And for a movie, it just wasn't funny.
Mm.
So yeah, it was kind of a damp squib for me. I didn't even like the costuming, and sometimes, at least if nothing else, I enjoy the costumes, and even the costumes in this were kind of like eh.
He had that sweater on that said Veek with the little flower. Can you tell me about that?
I have no idea what that was supposed to be. I actually said to my friend, I was like,
Yeah,
what is that? Week? Like, because like his name is Vicky, which I assume is a short form of Vikram, because no one names their
yeah,
child Vicky. That's usually a pet name. But I
yeah.
was like, what is Week? Like, do some of his friends call him Week?
Yeah.
But no one called him Week though. I mean, at least if it was like, oh, his
Yeah.
grandma calls him Week and she gave him, that would make sense. But it was so random.
I wanted to know
Um,
about that because I was very charmed by that very personalized,
yeah.
but I didn't get it.
No, yeah, no, it was pretty terrible, I would say. So I'm very glad that my movie theater didn't have it, and I didn't have to say it was also long.
Oh,
I mean, it was what? It was like at least 2.5 hours for sure. Of course, I forwarded through the songs, so I got through it a lot faster. But I would have been a grumpy camel if I had to watch this
that's
movie in
two
the
and a half
theater and sit
hours.
through everything.
Oh. I watched it in over 2 days, so I didn't notice.
Mm. No, I
I,
saw it
I
in one go.
I feel like there's anything else really worth. No, I take that back. Do you think that Vidya's transition from no, I don't want you to film us on our wedding night to
Mm.
okay, I'm into it. What did you think about that whole sequence?
I didn't I just don't think her character was like fleshed out enough. Like I didn't understand this girl at all. Like they say she's a doctor, she's an MBBS, and we have one scene where she has to go to the hospital or whatever. But other than that, there was no reference to her being a doctor or anything. Which I mean, if she's a small town girl, she's from Rishikesh and it's 97 and she works as a doctor and she is married to a Mehndi artist, that in itself is a very interesting plot line. You know what I mean? Because like a Mehndi artist marrying a doctor would be a very big deal. And there's a little bit about that in the beginning, but like the parents agree very quickly, which was funny. And then I just don't understand this girl. I don't understand this character. I don't understand why she fell in love with him. There was no backstory. How did they meet? I don't know any of that.
Oh,
I don't.
they were in school together and everything.
Okay, I missed that then.
They say that. Yeah.
And then, oh yeah, there was that flashback scene where he was doing mehendi on one girl, and then she puts her hand, and he uses, and I was like, oh, he's ambidextrous. How cool. Okay, but there was no like, did they go on dates? Was what was going, like there was nothing, right? And then I don't know who this person is. Like, is she, was she particularly interested in doing this? He was very into it. He had a newspaper clipping and everything. Like he had thought about this, right? And he had planned the trip to Goa. He was very enthusiastic about the whole thing. She just seemed to sort of like go along with it. And at first she was like no, and then she was like yes. There was, it was a paper thin character.
Yeah.
I don't have any opinions about Vidya the character at all. I don't have very strong opinions about Vicky either, but I have even less opinions about her. It
Yeah.
was all very strange.
Yeah.
Did you have any strong, I mean, what did you think about that bit?
Well, I for a movie that eventually is at least somewhat about filming people without their
Mm.
consent, they rushed her through that thought process really fast,
Right.
which I mean, I didn't love it as it was happening, but then in retrospect, I'm even less of
Yeah.
critical of it. And it's not to say that this character wouldn't change her mind or be interested or whatever, but I just felt like she goes out and sits out on the patio at the hotel and sees a couple looking back at their snapshot
Yeah.
and then changes her mind. And like snapshots and video are very different
Right.
potentially, and we don't actually know what those snapshots are of. So
Mhm.
um I think it would have made, especially given the runtime of the film, which was not brief, like what if they sort of just started filming their day-to-day life a little bit, at least on their
Mm.
vacation, right? Like here we are at this site and like here we are playing in the ocean or whatever. And then
Right.
she kind of gets used to film
Oh.
and or something that it felt for something that she had a strong reaction about, she changed her mind really fast. And it is something that could affect her career, right? Like
Hmm.
so and we didn't really see her wrestling with that, I don't think.
No. It almost, I feel like this movie could have been a little bit more interesting if, for instance, instead of being a newlywed couple, if, for example, if it was like, say, a couple that's been married for a few years, maybe they're middle aged, maybe they already have kids who are teenagers, and maybe like their bedroom life is dead.
Yeah.
And one of them happens to read an article in a magazine which is like, spice up your sex life and do this. And they're like, hey, what do you think of this
Yeah.
idea? And then they do this, and then the CD gets stolen, whatever, and then they're panicking and they're like, "Oh my god, we have like grown children, we have like teenage children." What this? I feel like that would be more interesting to me. Whereas like just this newlywed couple where he's like, "We should." I'm like, okay, it just nothing about it. It just kind of was like a nothing burger of a movie. So yeah. I saw Jigra, which I enjoyed greatly. So I'm glad that I saw, yes, I really enjoyed it. So I'm glad I saw Vicky Vidya first and then I watched Jigra because Vicky Vidya was very annoying and Jigra I actually enjoyed. I'm not saying it's a perfect movie, um, but there was a lot about it that I really enjoyed. And I am not like, a big Alia Bhatt fan or anything. I think she's good. But I also think she's very, very overrated. And I do not like this whole constant Kejo thing of like, she's India's Meryl Streep. No, she's not. Stop it. Um, but I thought she was good in this movie. I also really liked Vedang Rena, who has such an uncanny resemblance to Ranveer Singh that I can't stop thinking about it every time I see him on screen. I'm like, this is baby Ranveer Singh. No, it's not. It's Vedang Rena. He was good, but really, the one person in this movie that I really enjoyed was this guy. I think his name is Vivek Gomber, and I haven't really seen him in much stuff. He's done a few. He's done some like famous TV show in India that I haven't watched. And he's done two Marathi movies, and he plays one of the jailers in this. Like one of the jailers in the facility where Vedang Rena is being held, and I thought he was fantastic. So he was really good, and Alia Bhatt was really good, and Vedang Rena didn't have a lot to do
Hmm.
beyond just being like a prisoner who's like scared out of his wits. But I thought he was good too. I think of like the young crop of new actors we're getting, I think Vedang Rana has some potential because he was also the only person I enjoyed in Archie's. Um, but I like this movie. So in case people don't know what Jigra, and I'm not going to give any spoilers, but it's on Netflix and I think it's worth a watch. The story is basically they're these brother and sister. It's Alia Bhatt and Vedang Rana, and they're orphans. And Vedang goes with his cousin to this fictional country, and they one of them has drugs on them, and so there's like this whole imprisonment that happens, but Vedangrena, his sister, is trying to get him out. So it has some shades of this really old Sridevi movie called Gumrah. I don't know if you've seen it, Beth. Have you seen Gumrah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So some of those same concepts of like you're stuck in a country where the laws are so draconian that if you are found with drugs, it's a capital punishment and you are screwed. And if whether you're innocent or whether you're, guilty or you've been framed, it kind of doesn't matter. It's kind of like a ticking time bomb and you're going to be executed. So if it's like time's running out and someone needs to get you out of there. So it's a similar idea here. And Alia Bhatt has to help her brother get out of there come hell or high water. Um, I thought she was great as Satya. I really believed her resolve. I liked her acting. She was very nuanced. She had this sort of like steely determination. I think Alia Bhatt is best when she's not like being hyper or screaming at the camera and when she's a lot more restrained. And she was very restrained in this movie. You could really see like her micro expressions and how worried she is, how sad she is, how desperate she is. I really like that. And she had like a good connection with Vedang Rena. I thought the direction was really good. The story was good. Some things about it are a little bit like, I mean, it's like it's a jailbreak sort of a movie. And anytime you have those kind of films, there's a healthy amount of suspension of disbelief you have to do because anytime you watch a movie, or if it's like you're watching a show like Prison Break, or if it's like a heist movie or whatever, I mean, you kind of have to believe that these people have all these like they're these masterminds who can repel and they can figure out how to shut power systems down and all of these things that normal people usually are not able to do. So to some extent, I had to suspend my disbelief. But as long as I was willing to go along with the fact that they can do that stuff, I was I enjoyed it. And it definitely passed my cell phone test. One or two scenes I felt like they could have been cut, but overall, I thought the pacing of the movie was really good. There were some really witty dialogues. So there was one scene where this actor says to her, because she's so hell bent on saving her brother no matter what, and he says to her, "Let me tell you a story about the scorpion and the frog." And we've heard this in Darlings, right? And I was like, oh no, I don't want to hear that story again. And literally, Alia Bhatt's character turns to me and says, I don't want to hear that story again. It was so funny. It was like such a good, like, meta kind of a moment. I really enjoyed that bit. And she had one or two, like, so one thing that really appealed to me about her character in this film is one of my complaints with certain movies is where the woman tries to be the better person and the woman is always trying to do the right thing and cares about consequences and cares about the greater good, which is something that male characters don't have to do. And in this movie, she didn't care about those things. And I was like, yes, I like that. Also, very recently, I saw a clip of Reese Witherspoon's that went viral. I think it's like an old clip, but it just went viral. I don't know if you've seen it. I'll find it and send it to you. But Reese Witherspoon was talking about how irritating it is to her as a woman in Hollywood to see, like in movies, and they showed like a clip of all of these films where the woman says to the man, well, what are we going to do? And then, of course, the man figures out the solution, right? And it was like a supercut of all of these films where the woman says, well, what do we do? Well, what do we do now? Well, what should we do? And I love that in this movie, it was the men saying to Alia Bhatt, well, what should we do? What do we do? And she was like, well, I think we should do such and such, or I'm going to do this. You can do it if you want, or if you don't want to do it, that's okay too, but I'm going to do it. So I loved the amount of agency she had. I loved the fact that she was the undisputed hero of
Yeah.
this film. She got to do some good action sequences. There were one of the sequences I didn't necessarily buy because Alia Bhatt is not someone I think of as a very strong or fit person. If it were Deepika Padukone, I would have bought some of the sequences better because Deepika is clearly an athlete and she looks like she's a strong person, and Alia Bhatt comparatively looks very petite. But again, it was not a big deal for me. It was fine. It's not like she was doing some sort of like Rajnikant stunt where she's taking on
Right.
20 people. So it was still
Right.
believable.
Right.
And because I enjoyed this movie, I actually looked up Vasan Bala, who is the director. Okay, so I have his Wikipedia pulled up. Look at this. He
Right.
wrote the scripts for Bombay Velvet and Raman Raghav too. He also worked as an assistant director on Dev D, which we love. Gulal and Trishna, as a dialogue writer, he's contributed to The Lunchbox and Rukh. I don't know what Rukh is. And in 2019, he released Mard Ko Dard Nahi Hota, which I really love. I thought that was such a cute movie. And I was like, wait, this man did it? So I like a lot of this work that he's done, but I had no idea who this person is, and I really enjoyed. I enjoyed Jigra. I will say that as a person who loves to read about Bollywood gossip, I thought it was terrible how Dharma Productions and Alia Bhatt and all of these people basically threw him under the bus when the film flopped, and he essentially had to like sort of take all the brickbats for it, which I think is very wrong and like almost like a form of like workplace bullying. Because if this movie had been a hit, Dharma Productions and Karan Johar and Alia Bhatt, all of these people would have been crowing from the rooftops what a gigantic megastar Alia Bhatt is, and look at her box office poll. So if you're going to take credit for your hits, you should also take credit or discredit for your flops. And the fact that these people just threw this man under the bus, I think is an extremely poor taste. So just putting that out there. But I thought it was a good movie, and I have to say the music of this movie is awesome. And there's this one song, it's called Pan Indian King. It has some words in Telugu in it, but it's not a Telugu song. It's like a Hindi song, but it has some Telugu in it. It was amazing and I love it and I can't wait to just like stream it constantly and it was awesome. I will send it to you. I think you're going to be as hooked on it as I was. It also has like a very lo-fi sad version, very emo version of the song Phoolon ka taro ka sabka kehna hai, which is like the classic brother sister song from Hare Rama Hare Krishna, and that was really nice. So the music choices in this movie were also very good. I wouldn't say that if you haven't like if you watch Jigra, it's going to change your life. But I do think that it's a really good movie. I like that the female protagonist truly is the hero of this movie from beginning to end. Um, and I like that she's badass and I think that she's kicking butt and she's not apologetic about it. And it was very sweet. There's this one scene where, again, I'm not giving anything away, but there's like a little drawing that her brother does, and it's like a little drawing of a girl and a boy holding hands, and the caption under it just says "ghar."
No.
I was like, that was so sweet. It was so sweet. It was like one of the sweetest moments in the film for me. And again, it wasn't portrayed in like a very like schlocky kind of like a stupid way. It was very sweet. So I recommend this movie. It's a good palate cleanser after the nonsense that is Vicky Vidya. Are there any recent or upcoming movies that you're interested in watching, Beth?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. I am contemplating watching Pushpa 2.
Ah.
But I don't know. I don't know if I watch. I thought about it. It's playing at my local theater, and I was like, should I watch Pushpa 2? Because I did enjoy the first one. I saw it on the plane, and I was like, this is fun. And I do like Allu Arjun. Um, and but then I read its review. I just typed in Google, how is Pushpa 2? And I saw a headline that said terrible, horrible, like, and I was like, oh dear, maybe I shouldn't watch it. But I don't know. I like Rashmika Mandana and I like Allu Arjun, so I am wrestling with the decision to watch it or not. Subscribers, if you have seen Pushpa 2 and if you have your opinions, please let me know. Should I or shouldn't I go to the theater to watch it? Tell me what I should do. Okay. What else is on your list for any old movies you want to watch? Any Ramsey movies you want to watch?
Yes, let me pull up my list of old movies that I want to watch because I mean, I'll run out of them at some point because they obviously don't make more old movies, but
Right.
like, so I will have 2 whole weeks off at the Christmas, New Year time. So
Mm,
I hope to watch quite a few things, but I mean, I have this ongoing list of, things I want to see. So I haven't seen an old Bengali movie in so long. So there's
right.
those I want to watch.
Well, remember we're gonna watch Sahib Bibi or Gulam. So if you
Right.
haven't, have you seen that Bengali version or
I
no?
have, but it's been a
Oh, you
while.
have. Okay.
I'd like to watch that again. There's just I'm trying to see what else is on my list.
Preferably with like wine in your hand.
Probably. Yeah. Um, oh gosh, this there's nothing on my list that I think anyone else is gonna be like, oh yeah, watch that right away, unless you just happen to have seen it. But um
Is there any 80s in it? Because usually that's what gets votes for
there's a
me.
couple of Ramsey brothers from the 80s that I
Okay.
need.
I support that.
There are quite a few Sri Devi films on
I
here.
support that.
Like, and I don't know why these are on my list other than that she's in them. So like
Okay.
Inkilab, is that good? I don't
I
know.
don't know.
She's in it, so I'll probably give it a try. There's a couple more. I've tracked down a few more Shashi Kapoor films with subtitles that I haven't seen yet. But like oh no, I watched Johnny Dosed, didn't I? I don't always update this list as I'm realizing, but yeah, there's a million billion things on here to watch. There's a Uttam Kumar Mala Sinha movie I want to see. There's
Oh.
um I put so sometimes I actually remember to write down why I want to see a thing, but I think I was looking at Prakash Mehra's filmography because
Mm.
like that's usually a good time, right?
Yeah.
So I wrote down Khalifa, which I haven't seen, and my note says sounds like Dawn, but earlier question mark.
Oh, okay.
What does that mean? I don't know. I don't remember what that means, but that at least gives me a hint, right? Like someone's going
Okay.
over someone else or whatever. So yeah, there's just yeah, various Shashi and Reka films. I wrote down oh, I've seen that. I don't clean these things up. It's very bad. Like there's um another Sumitra Chatterjee, Aparna Sen where they co-star that I've written down that I'd like to see. I've never seen Parinda. That's on my list.
I
Uh,
love that movie.
it's just
You
a
should watch that movie. That is such a good movie. And we know your love for Jackie Shroff.
right. Right. So like I'm looking at my list and it'll say things like the name of the film and then it'll say next to it Danny Denzongpa or Mithun
Mm.
or Kamal Hassan silent film or
Oh,
Shashi and
Pushpak, that
Rekha.
would be.
Yeah, Shashi and
Pushpak is
Rekha
cute.
1980s or Shashi and Rekha in the 1970s or spy film 1982. Like obviously I wanted a spy film from 1982. So yeah, it's just a real mess, this list. It's just in alphabetical order. So
What you should do is you should do like a dart game. So you should like close your eyes and just like throw darts at it. And then wherever your dart lands, that's the movie you have to watch. So if that's a Ram Se Mother movie, so be it. And if it's
that's
Khalifa, so be it.
I think that's a pretty good idea, especially if I just sort of skim through the list and decide. I
Yeah.
might do
Let
that.
the universe choose for you.
Yeah, and I usually, if I can find the movie, I write that down as well. Like, oh, it's on YouTube with subs or it's on iTunes.
Mm,
So, um, yeah, it's a real mess. But
nice.
usually
Okay.
this time of year, I'm trying to catch up on the things that came out in 2024, but I can't think of anything that I haven't seen that I want to that I know of.
Yeah, I would say we're fairly caught up, right? Because we watched Buckingham Murders, Dopati, we watched this Vicky Vidya nonsense.
That's
You could give Jigra a go. It's not too bleak or depressing.
yeah, maybe.
Other than that, what came out this year that I
Well,
don't think, well, I mean, you watched BB3 already. I want to watch it once it comes on streaming. So yeah, maybe not a lot left to check out.
I do. I've said people will, if you've listened to this podcast for a while, you know that I was trying very desperately to finish my Yash Chopra
Oh
filmography
yeah,
years ago, and I'm still not done yet because I still haven't finished Mashal. So I need to watch that.
finish it because that way then you'll be
Yeah.
done. Then you're done.
Yeah, I think Prakash Mehra films and Ravikant Nagaich films are which are like the
Okay.
spy films and stuff. I love those. So those are two people I'm kind of working on.
Nice. Okay. All right. I think that's it for this episode. And do we know what we're doing for next episode or no?
We do. I don't have it in front of me. One moment, one moment, one moment. Our next episode, I believe, well, we've talked about doing films that have snow.
Yes, for
We
Christmas.
Yeah, so we've also talked about doing MF Hussein's movies.
Ah, yes. Don't quit your day job.
Yeah, don't quit your day job. We were thinking about maybe exploring some films that flopped that we feel should not have, and that would be the only
Yeah.
area. So those are a few of the things coming up at some.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. And then I know our next superstar will be Juhi at some point, so we'll get to her. Once we're done with Juhi, we'll be done with the superstars that debuted in the 80s, and then we'll be directly in the 90s and stuff. So then the 90s has like a big chunk of people, starting with Urmila. She's the earliest in the 90s debuts, so that should be fun.
Great. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
looking forward to Urmila, Rani, Priti, if we count
I
Priti,
know. Aishwarya.
Ashwarya. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Shreya's in that list. Okay, sounds good. And then we'll see you guys next week. If you've seen Vicky Vidya Kavo Wala video, let us know what you thought in the comments. If you've seen Jigra, let us know what you thought in the comments. Should I watch Pushpa 2? I am crowdsourcing for opinions. And we'll see you next week. Bye.